Tonight, Fox 4 News is taking a closer look at the man accused of shooting 3 people at a Dallas Home Depot, 2 of them police officers. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
Good evening. I'm Steve Eager. Those shootings, the manhunt, the chase that led to the suspect's arrest all happened 2 weeks ago today. Dallas police officer Rogelio Santander died from his injuries. Officer Crystal Almeida still in the hospital with a long recovery ahead. Home Depot loss prevention officer Scott Painter was released from the hospital yesterday. The suspect, Armando Juarez, had been a nonviolent offender in and out of jail several times and skipping bond on some of his charges. Fox 4's Sean Rabb has been examining whether bond reform proposals might have made a difference. Sean.
Well, Steve, right now, bail reform is a national debate, but how do you determine who'll go bad like never before? Juarez, some say, is the poster child for why the bail reform movement is a bad idea. But proponents say this case makes the argument for bail reform. When Armando Juarez opened fire inside that Home Depot, officers Rogelio Santander, who died, and Crystal Almeida were arresting him on an outstanding warrant. Juarez was supposed to have been sentenced to probation in February after accepting a plea deal for stealing 2 trucks.
It's a pretty common occurrence that sometimes defendants don't show up for their sentencings, and we have to wait until we find them again or go looking for them.
Former prosecutor Tom Novak, not involved in this case.
And there's just a lot of those cases. You know, I've handled hundreds of those kinds of cases over my career.
Juarez first went into the system in 2007. A failure to ID, a misdemeanor. That same year, cocaine possession, a state jail felony. Between 2007 and 2017, he was ticketed 17 times, which led to 3 more arrests. Then, December 2017, arrested on a theft charge, stealing a truck, a state jail felony. While out on bond, he stole another truck and was arrested January 1st of 2018, but still got out again on bond 14 days later. The night of the shootings, when police put out the alert for this distinctive Ford pickup, the plates on it were from one of those stolen vehicles. In all, 9 times since 2007, Juarez was placed on bond. 8 times he failed to appear, but nothing violent in his criminal history.
It's a pretty common occurrence, again, in Dallas County that we have people with records like these.
This is a case that I think makes a very strong argument for bail reform.
UNT Dallas Law School professor Mike Howard says bail reform is more than letting poor, low-level offenders out of jail. It involves better risk assessment tools that may indicate a person might show violence, though they've never shown that before.
There's a whole lot of factors that social science looks at that can predict someone's likelihood of violence. And that's what the bail reform movement wants to use, because when we understand more about people, when we're setting bonds, we can have a better snapshot of that person.
Now when bond is set, it's based on a person's criminal history. How many convictions? How serious are the crimes? Along with the current charges. Bail reform, Howard says, would identify more specific risk marks. In the case of Armando Juarez, it might have been his drug possession, leading then to court-ordered rehab and possibly conditions that would have been more intense and restrictive.
The idea is if we learn more about these defendants, we can not only let out nonviolent offenders and keep costs down for the taxpayer, but we can also keep the community safer.
Well, we now know that Juarez was on a destructive path, but without looking at the totality of his life, that's his criminal record and before, it would have been impossible to predict the violence that he exhibited. Critics of bail reform say leniency and lowering of bonds will put other potentially dangerous people on the street.